There is perhaps a hero who walks amongst us because that ball is worth a lot of money. He tied Babe Ruth last night. Remember when that was a big deal? Home run history. The most significant home run history made by the big dumper, Cal Raleigh. It is a historic milestone baseball, and Cal Raleigh is still barely a household name in his own household. How does that happen? It was a feel-good story last night in Seattle on more than one level because we saw a little bit of a heartwarming moment. We still don't have all the details on who this man is, but there is perhaps a hero who walks amongst us. And in Seattle last night, he ended up catching Cal Raleigh's historic 60th home run, and in a nice palate cleanser after the controversy of Philly's Karen. And we all remember her going over to angrily berate the dad who rightfully caught a home run, or at least the fan who ended up the dad. He went over and he picked the home run up. It's like fun. By the way, somebody needs to tell Philly's Karen, home runs that go into the stands, they're like fumbles. They're live balls. Whoever falls on it, it belongs to them. She didn't see it that way. She had to go and berate the guy right in front of his kid. But this man right here,
he did it!
knows how it's done. Giving the ball to a child. And again, we don't know the relationship, if there's a relationship, who this guy is. Hopefully he'll be on Good Morning America talking to Michael Strahan at some point and he can take a bow, because I'll tell you this, I hope he's independently wealthy, because that ball is worth a lot of money, especially if Cal Raleigh doesn't hit another home run this season. Even if he does, it is a historic milestone baseball. Ken Golden, the CEO of Golden Auctions, says the ball could be worth as much as $250,000. Recall last year, Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run ball got auctioned for $4.4 million. The Cal Raleigh ball, I don't think it's $1 million+ item, but it's certainly a six-figure asset, and that fan gave it to a kid. So good for you. I hope the fan is wealthy. Otherwise, regrets he might have a few. I don't want to ruin a great moment. But look, I mean, maybe he's the guy who drives this. Look at that sweet bastard. When you're the baddest man in Seattle and you don't give a good damn who knows about it. In fact, you want people to know about it. You're the Don Johnson of Seattle, driving that thing around. Look at that trident on the door. And the guy, by the way, who caught the 60th home run ball, some of you might have noticed, he was wearing the old school trident cap. He had that old school 1970s Larry Milbourne, Mario Mendoza, Seattle Mariners energy, generously giving it away. A guy who knows a little something about cranking home runs in Seattle is a photographer now. And some of you might remember he got one of the best shots at Augusta this year of Rory McIlroy after he completed the career Grand Slam, beating Justin Rose in a playoff. There's Ken Griffey Jr. on hand at Bethpage Black, documenting the Ryder Cup. And obviously there's a sweet bastard hanging out with him there. Look at that guy that's with him as well. But Ken Griffey Jr., this is obviously more than a hobby for him. He is showing, I don't know, he looks to me like he's actually a very, very, very good photographer. Maybe he's kind of got his own Bo Jackson thing going, baseball and photography. Bo knew baseball, Ken knows photography. Good to see
Ricky,
him.
I think that's Michael Collins next to him. I think that's Michael Collins.
Is that
Michael Collins? I think it is, if we can see it
I know
full. Yeah.
Is that Michael?
I think that's Michael.
I couldn't tell.
Who's your caddy?
With the floppy hat and the beard. Yeah, it is. That is Michael Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael's he's a longtime Super 70 sports follower. I love that guy. We need to get him on the show at some point. I think he would be a lot of fun. Look at that sweet bastardry in full effect there from Michael Collins. Got to give a man credit for sporting that look. I'm glad that you kept me honest there, Tim. But, from one left-handed slugger / photographer to another here on the Home Run episode of the Ricky Cobb Show, we're going to be looking at some of Super 70 Sports' greatest tweets on the subject of the long ball
14
today.
first. 14 first. This is animated.
Nobody
They're all animated
in the
except
1970s did it better than this man. Who do you think had the most home runs in the 1970s? Well, now you know. Wilver Dornell Stargell, 1971 and 1979 world champion with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Of course, he was the godfather of the family. We had Phil Garner on the program not that long ago talking about, among other folks, Willie Stargell. 296 bombs in the 1970s. That is the top figure. And it goes to tell you, man, when I look at these, I'm 54 years old, okay? I grew up on 70s and 80s baseball. And as I've said, I said it earlier this week, only one guy in the 70s or 80s had a 50 home run season, and that was George Foster in 1977, who hit 52. So when I see 60 home runs, when I see Schwarber with 55, 56, when I see Aaron Judge crossing the 50 home run threshold for the fourth time in his career, my inner 10-year-old who thought 50 home runs was something that only Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Babe Ruth were capable of, I still get a little bit of pep in my step because you didn't have that many homers. I mean, Tim, the guy with the most home runs in the 70s didn't even average 30 a year.
So crazy. Your tweet really caused me to dive deep on that. It's so hard to fathom that and your next tweet that we have coming up too with Schmidt and Murph. By the way, no batting gloves in that picture of Willie Stargell. I got to go back and double check here, but yeah, these guys too, so crazy.
Yeah, Willie Stargell, who would swing a sledgehammer to get himself ready. That was a habit that Dave Parker picked up from Willie Stargell, and Dave Parker did the same thing. Only two guys hit more than 300 home runs in the 1980s. And there they are on your screen right now. Michael Jack Schmidt and Dale Murphy. One is in the Hall of Fame. The man on the left is the greatest third baseman in the history of baseball, in my opinion. I don't even think there's a great argument for anybody else. With all respect to George Brett. With all respect to Brooks Robinson and all of his gold gloves, Mike Schmidt was the complete package. Greatest power hitter in the National League in his day and a gold glove third baseman as well. But Dale Murphy, how many times do I have to say it? I'm just going to keep saying it over and over and over again until somebody hears me crying in the wilderness. Dale Murphy belongs in the Hall of Fame, and there is your latest data point that I can give you to support my position that he should, in fact, be in the Hall of Fame. Now, look, when you're talking about home runs, pitchers have a little something to say about that now, don't they? And I've got a statistic here, two statistics, in fact. Some of you are going to know this. Some of you may have seen me tweet this before. But both of these things I find to be incredible, and for the same guy to have achieved them both is extra incredible. Jim Palmer, the three-time Cy Young Award winner for the Baltimore Orioles back in the 1970s, never gave up a Grand Slam home run in his entire career. Now, granted, the bases weren't loaded against Jim Palmer all that often, but he pitched in the majors for, close to 20 years. So certainly there were a number of at-bats, and you can go to Baseball Reference and look it up. There were a lot of at-bats in Jim Palmer's career with the bases loaded. He never gave up a homer under those circumstances. Now, if that's not enough for you, and I'm not sure which one of these is crazier. I think the next one is crazier. He never gave up back-to-back home runs in his entire career. Not one time. And as I tweeted here, I realize that sounds like bullshit, but it's true. Fact check me. If you don't believe me and you feel the need to fact check me on either or both of those, please go do it. And you will find that it's actually true. Jim Palmer was not on the mound for a lot of milestone home runs during his career. This episode today, friends, is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. And I love to be right under all circumstances, but I especially love to be right when I can profit from it, and Prize Picks is your place to do that. Not only can you profit, but it's fun, it's simple to play. You can make your picks in 60 seconds or less and be on with your day. I encourage everyone to check out the max discounts. I have taken advantage of them to win on multiple occasions already this season, and I am taking advantage of the max discount for week 4 on Jalen Hurts with my picks this week. Jalen Hurts, all he's got to do is throw for 1 yard or more, and you are going to click on that pick. So make sure that you get in on that one. Prize Picks is giving you one if you're smart enough to take advantage of it. Add Jalen Hurts to your lineup. Prize Picks, the best way to win cash during this football season and in other sports as well. Who's going off, who's not? Well, Prize Picks is the place for you to make your predictions. And when you're right, you get paid. Best of all, you can use my code Ricky, and you'll get $50 in free lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's all that it takes. $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Just use my code Ricky to take advantage of that offer. Prize Picks. It's good to be right, and I hope that I am right this week with my picks, which I'm going to give you now. If you want to piggyback off of me and make some money, if you think that I have the right idea here, I would welcome you doing that. As I said, I've got Jalen Hurts to pass for over 0.5 yards. I'm going more with that. Sam Darnold, I'm going to say that he will have at least one touchdown pass against the Arizona Cardinals. That seems to be a good probability in my opinion. So I went more there. And Jake Bates, the place kicker of the Detroit Lions, as they play the Cleveland Browns this week, I believe that the Lions will score 3 touchdowns or more against the Cleveland Browns. I don't think that they're going to be able to shut down that juggernaut offense that it appears that the Lions have chugging along. Even with Ben Johnson here in Chicago, it seems like the Lions are going to pile up a lot of points this year. I'm going to go more there as well. So I'm looking to 3.25 times my investment this week on Prize Picks. Feel free to jump in there and take advantage with me. Week 4 this week, professional football. So as I said at the top of the show, home runs. Cal Raleigh making history, is now not only the first catcher to hit 50 home runs, he's the first catcher to hit 60 home runs. And who's going to be the next catcher that hits 60? I mean, when you really think about it, catchers generally don't play enough games to seriously challenge that type of level. I know that Raleigh DHs some of the nights that he doesn't catch, but nonetheless, the grind of catching, what it does to you physically, the nagging injuries that go with it, it just is not a position that is conducive to putting up video game numbers. Cal Raleigh obviously proving himself to be the exception to that this season. Aaron Judge, as I said, he is now the 4th man in Major League history to have 4 50-plus home run seasons. And it's an exclusive club. The other members of that club, Babe Ruth, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. And who's the MVP of the American League, by the way? Take a look at this head-to-head. It's got to be Aaron Judge. That says a lot about how great Aaron Judge is. There is a catcher in the American League with 60 home runs, 125 RBIs. Somehow Cal Raleigh has more stolen bases than Aaron Judge. He's got 7 WAR. He's slugging almost 600. But man, look at the season that Aaron Judge is having. He is maybe the best right-handed hitter in the history of baseball. At least for peak value. I don't know if his counting numbers will be where Albert Pujols are, for instance. But if you wanted to tell me that Aaron Judge is the best right-handed hitter to ever do it in Major League Baseball, I'm not going to put up much of an argument to that. And I do want to give a shout out to former Chicago Cub Kyle Schwarber as well, who didn't hit a milestone last night, but he hit a couple of balls about a mile, number 55 and 56 last night. And it is a precious select group of hitters in the history of baseball who have ever hit 56 home runs or more. You start talking about very, very historic names once you get up past the mid-50s. It's hard to do that by accident. And listen, Kyle Schwarber has very, very low-key put together one of the most impressive power-hitting careers of this generation. And I always loved him as a Cub, that quick swing that he has. I never thought for a minute when he was here in Chicago, as much as I liked him, that he would end up being the kind of hitter that he has proven to be with the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know that there's anybody in Major League Baseball that I enjoy watching bat more than Kyle Schwarber. Because when he gets into one, it's a sight to behold. Here's a sight for you to behold. Speaking of which, I'm talking about Mark McGwire a lot today. He's obviously one of only two people to hit 70 or more home runs in the history of baseball, 70 back in 1998. And I'm not saying that we should have caught on to the steroid usage sooner, but maybe the fact that Bill Murray once had a better upper body was a clue. And I know that Mark McGwire hit 49 home runs in 1987, I think it was. And he did it with that body, but not exactly looking. He looks a little like Poindexter from Revenge of the Nerds there, a little bit. Look at him. Would you have thought that guy would be the 70 home run man, the first one in the history of baseball? And I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot more coming along.
For as skinny as he was, though, Ricky.
Jacked to the gills.
Yeah. See how skinny he was, as we know? But yeah, he still hit, 49, right, as a rookie? Which was the record.
Hit 49 when he was skinny. Yeah. So, but, the juice didn't hurt him any. And unfortunately, as much as some people kind of just want to move on from it, anytime you hear McGwire, you think, well, that number is not exactly pristine, is it? When you hear Barry Bonds, that number is not exactly pristine. And I'll say Barry Bonds is the best hitter I've ever seen. I'd be lying to you if I said that I've ever seen a better hitter than Barry Bonds. Now, if you're wanting to talk pure hitter, yeah, Tony Gwynn is the greatest pure hitter. He hit 338 for his career. But when we start talking about OPS, we start talking about slugging percentage, on base percentage. When we talk about what really goes into making you a dominant hitter, Barry Bonds is the best that I've ever seen. Unfortunately, he was enhanced. Speaking of enhancements, this man is no stranger to them. The only man in baseball history who has gone over 60 home runs 3 times. And I don't even know what has gone on with Sammy over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. As I tweeted here, how many guesses would a stranger need before they got to black guy who used to hit 60 homers a year? When you look at this picture. Let's get a look at Sammy there. Sammy bleached his skin for some reason. That's his business. I don't know why. I don't know exactly what the deal is. I'm not judging him. But for some reason, Sammy did this, and it appears that he is laid off of whatever he was using to create this effect. When we saw him embraced back into Cubs Nation with open arms this season, it appears that Sammy looks a little bit more like the Sammy that we all knew and loved back in the 1990s. It's a shame in some respects when we look back on baseball in the 90s and in the aughts, if you will, that this whole steroid thing runs through it. The fact that McGwire's not in the Hall of Fame, Sosa's not in the Hall of Fame, Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, Clemens isn't in the Hall of Fame. and we can continue going, naming players that in a perfect world would have their plaques up in Cooperstown, and we would be celebrating them for the great memories that they gave us at the time. But before we knew what was going on, there certainly is a good argument that McGwire and Sosa did a lot to save baseball, because the game was really hurting after the strike, hurting so much after the strike that we all got irrationally excited about a guy just showing up for work every day. Remember that? No World Series in 94, and then Cal Ripken Jr. broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive games record in 95, and that was like the biggest deal going in baseball. Is, hey, look, this motherfucker has shown up to work over 2,000 times in a row. We were trying so hard to get excited about baseball again, and then McGwire and Sosa's duel certainly took it to the next level, and in a very real way did baseball some good. But speaking of Barry Bonds, a little bit of Barry Bonds history here for you on the show. I believe that it was late in the 1999 season, Barry Bonds realized the steroids were starting to kick in. Think they're working now, he said, as his uniform buttons started popping off and zipping around Candlestick Park. It's like, holy shit, I see how McGwire and Sosa are doing it now. And, you know, there's a part of me that doesn't really blame Barry Bonds. Best player of a generation, and he's watching McGwire and Sosa, who were both great players. Steroids alone can't make you hit 65 or 70 home runs. You obviously have to have a tremendous baseline of skill going in the first place. But to see those guys doing things and getting all of that attention and all of that love and all of the adulation while he's sitting over in the corner and he knows that he's twice the player that either of those guys were. So he decided he was going to take his Hulkamaniac vitamins and say his prayers and see what happened. And we know what happened. In 2001, he hit 73 home runs. He had a year where he had over a 600 on base percentage. If you go back and look at Bonds' numbers, he had 120 intentional walks in 1 year. If I remember correctly, he walked 232 times 1 year. So go back and look at Bonds' statistics from the late 90s through the early 2000s, and you would think that they couldn't be real. But I was there, and I remember, and they're real. The numbers are real. I don't know if all of his physical assets were real or not. That's an entirely different matter. But one thing that I can tell you is real as hell is this, my friends. It's time for America's Poll of the Day, and let's go to it now at Super 70 Sports on X, where the eagle flies high, higher than a Cal Raleigh home run ball that some goober handed to a kid and could have used to pay off his house. I don't know, buddy. I hope you're feeling good about that. Here's what we've got for you today here on this Thursday. Championship Friday tomorrow will occur while we're not on the air, as I will be off on Friday and Monday, but we will have Championship Friday tomorrow, and we'll report back to you on it next week when we resume with our regular programming. The final four contestants hoping to punch their ticket to Championship Friday are Scottie Pippen, the number 2 man on a 6 championship Chicago Bulls dynasty, not too shabby. Then we have my 17-year-old daughter's favorite go-to snack, Cheez-Its. Well, I guess maybe she likes Takis better. But Cheez-Its are right there in her wheelhouse. She has a Cheez-Its pool floaty that I bought her this year in honor of her Cheez-Its addiction. I know that would be her vote. Third, we have Emergency. Get me some Ringer's Lactate, Tim. And what was the other stuff? There was some other thing that they would all, was it KMG 365? I don't fucking know. Gage and DeSoto, one of the best 70s shows. And then lastly, a shout out to Joe Kinsey and Dustin Fink. Riding lawnmowers is the last option. Tim, stack these for me and help me make sense of it here on this Thursday.
Hey now. Sorry for the little cough there, Ricky. I was trying to digest my Cheez-It, to be honest with you, when I went down there. Couple things. Well, yeah. Patient is VB, Rampart, 5151, toxic chemicals, all this good stuff. I forgot about emergency. Wasn't it was Emergency 911 the show later in the 90s?
Yeah, that came later.
Yeah, great
this
show.
This one was, I loved it when I was a kid. Emergency
Classic.
was the shit. I'm expecting my audience is old enough. I think Emergency is, they're frisky here. I don't think Emergency's going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Emergency exceeds expectations. I've got the over on votes for Emergency.
It's too bad you can't put logos, because once you see once I saw the quick Google, I'm like, oh my God, that was the show. Yeah, I confused that with it had a Chips vibe to it, right? Based in California.
Yeah, it was based in Southern California and LA. So yeah, they were sort of like the Chips of, helping toddlers who had ingested rat poison and shit like that, Tim. That was the kind of problem that they would encounter. They would have to pump stomachs and stuff like that,
Yeah, no, and it was that really fancy little sort of ambulance / pickup that they would cruise around in. So very, very good choice there. I think I would probably vote for that. But listen, anything goes when it comes to Moe's, because pimping ain't easy. There's my whole connection for you. Scottie Pippen, love that he called out LeBron recently. Cheez-Its, don't give me any of the crazy flavor, just straight up. I like the salt on them. Definitely a late night snack if I weren't fasting. Riding mowers, I'm not sure. We got to ask Kinsey. I don't know if that's part of the rules or not. I'm not exactly sure. We need a judge's opinion on that one. But look, man,
you gotta use a push mower, you think? Really?
I feel like
I never thought about that.
I feel like there's a different category for riding mowers. Yeah, when I was dissecting it all with Joe last year. But so listen, it's a long-winded way to say today Jared has the honors today. I am going to go with Emergency would be my vote. What do you got?
All right, see, you look at it, and Emergency's, it's dangerous. Emergency is. All right, so Scottie Pippen, Scotty's underrated, I think. He's not as underrated as he thinks he is.
Correct.
Because you listen to Scotty talk, and Scotty sometimes, I don't know if he really believes it, but, I've heard him insinuate, at least, that he was more important than Jordan to that dynasty. I don't recall them, winning during Michael's absence playing baseball. So, Scotty's ego is maybe a little bit out of control, but I would say he's underrated. Cheez-Its, I don't really care for. It's not a product that I would buy. I need more flavor per cracker than they're giving me, so I'm looking for something that is going to hit my taste buds a little bit harder than that. I'm wanting my taste buds to get hit like Ronnie Lott went in there. So Cheez-Its don't quite do it for me. Loved Emergency also. And then riding lawnmowers. I've never owned a riding lawnmower, Tim, but riding lawnmowers have to be one of the greatest inventions that there ever was. And I will say this, with all respect to Joe Kinsey, with all respect to the great men and women of the Thursday Night Mowing League, mowing lawns is just not something that appeals to me.
No.
That's something that I would rather throw a few bucks at somebody else to show up at my house and mow my lawn for me. So I'm not going to go that direction either. It's coming down to Scottie Pippen and Emergency, and I got to ride with Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto here.
There you go, man.
So
I'm reading some of their quotes. They're phenomenal. We can fire it here. I'm glad you didn't go for the ugliest man in the NBA, because Scotty, I'm with you. Could run the floor, play it down low, right? Someone coined that phrase for him.
Dude.
He was an integral.
I'll tell you a story sometime about that. That brings something to mind to me that I don't know if I need to say it on the show or not. Riding lawnmowers.
Ooh. Oh, that's early
Riding
though.
lawnmowers.
650. Right. You were a little late with the poll
Yeah,
there today, hombre. Let's see.
I
Let's
was
see where you're
very
at.
late with the poll today.
Yeah.
You had to remind me. Yeah, let's get an update on this.
Jared's in my ear
It's a
saying
busy
still
day.
34%. Yeah.
Still 34%. All right. Well, obviously I'm the odd man out on not seeing the joy of mowing lawns. But
It's
to
monotonous.
me, it just feels like a job. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
where's Tim? Like, are you ever just like, oh, I just want to get out and mow for a while?
I think when I was a kid looking
I've experienced.
Yeah, when I was looking to make some bucks, sure. Honestly, I see my neighbors mowing their lawn, and I have plenty of other yard work. Trust me, so I don't need to worry about cutting it. Look, there's a profession to it. I tried it a few times. It does not look as good when I'm finished. I got plenty of other things. In fact, I caught the rain last night with a little lime and a little fertilizer here in the Northeast. But yeah, man, riding lawnmower, not cutting it for me. Although the new articulating ones that can go left and right and spin on a dime look like pretty fun. But we'll have to get Joe to weigh in on this. I'll get him to give us his ruling here.
Yeah. Well, right now it looks like riding lawnmowers are going to ride their way into Championship Friday, where they'll try to mow down the competition, Tim.
I love it.
All right. That was cheesy. Let's go to Ronnie. Ronnie T-Shirts continues to make his way through the Pacific Northwest this week. He's going to be at the, I don't know who's playing. Where's he at? Oregon. What's he doing? Oregon, Washington?
No, Washington. Yeah. Ohio State. Oregon's out.
Ohio. Yeah. Ohio State. Yeah. Okay. Ohio State. Why would Rod go see Oregon and Washington? Of course. I know he's not in Oregon. Anyway, let's go to Ronnie right now, who I believe is going to break down for us what is it? What's more American, Tim?
Yeah, not the poll. I threw it out. I said, Ron, we're sick of your poll analysis. America deserves more. So give us a little description here. But he's got a couple little nuggets here for you. I think you'll like it. Let's give a listen.
Home runs or touchdowns? Which one do I like better? Well, clearly I like touchdowns better because I love football. Which one's more American, Ricky? Gosh, that's a hard one. Home runs, you kind of do by yourself. It's you against the pitcher, mano a mano. And touchdowns, it's a team effort. And for me, it feels like America was built off of a team effort. It wasn't just a bunch of individuals. So I'm going to have to go touchdowns are more American, but I do understand why home runs can be considered so American. I mean, baseball is the American pastime. Well, it used to be anyway. But yeah, I mean, I get it, but also context matters. At what point do you hit the home run? At what point do you hit the touchdown? So clearly a debatable subject. I just know I better see a shit ton of touchdowns by Ohio State in 2 days in Husky Stadium. So anyway, Ricky, have a great time in Vegas, and I will see you next week. Go Bucks.
My favorite thing about this is just where is Ronnie when he sends these messages? Tim, wouldn't it have been great if he started the week out and then just every time he sent us a message, it just descended further to where by, today he was just in a crack house or something. Somebody's smoking crack behind him as Ron tries to tell us. Of course, the most poorly kept secret in America is that Ron was going to say touchdowns are more American than home runs. Well, don't tell it to these guys is all that I can say to that, Tim. That, of course, is Hank Aaron, the home run champion until Barry Bonds came along all roided up and passed him. That still doesn't set well with me. But the other man, some of you might recall, is the great Atlanta Braves mascot of the 70s and on into the 80s, Chief Nakahoma. And I imagine the conversation went something like this. Say, what's your name, man? Chief Nakahoma. I'm planning to. And don't call me Chief. A little bit of Leslie Nielsen energy from Airplane there that I channeled into that one. But get it? Nakahoma?
I like it.
Amazingly, nobody got canceled. He had a TP out in the outfield, Tim. Do you remember him? He had his own team. He was like
Yes.
Bernie Brewer at Milwaukee games, except for he had a big teepee, and then he would come out and do a war dance. I guess it was a home run dance. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
That was back when we could still have nice things as a society. Some white lady with a liberal arts education cried, and now we can't do things like that anymore, Tim.
Well, you might get canceled over your Sammy Sosa tweet, so look out.
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, Sammy's decisions are Sammy's decisions. I don't know what he was doing there, but Piers Morgan chiming in with the best idea that I had last week. I'm a little jealous that Piers has 100,000 likes on this because I said the exact same fucking thing.
I was going to say, did he cut and paste and paste it entirely, or did he change some of the words?
Right? I mean, look at this. This is exactly what I said. I guess we now can confirm that Piers Morgan is a viewer. Hi, Piers. How's it going out there? But Piers Morgan tweeting, nobody knew about Johnny Carson's political views because he thought his job was to make all Americans laugh, not preach about politics. That's why he was the most popular late night host ever. America desperately needs another Carson. Well, you read my mind, Piers. What can I tell you? I'm going to agree with all of what you just said because I said it myself last week. Jimmy Kimmel, of course, back now, ABC reinstating him. So all of the histrionics about how we live in a fascist dictatorship, that's all quieted down. Jimmy Kimmel is now back. It turns out in this world, your employer can suspend you if they don't like your public comments. That's all it was. But you know what? If we had late night television that wasn't so consumed by the culture wars and wasn't so consumed by politics and wasn't so consumed by partisanship, there wouldn't have been any suspension necessary, and millions of us would be having a better time during late night. No doubt about it. In fact, I might watch late night again at some point if we had somebody in the vein of Johnny Carson. All right, we are going to go to a break now, and when we come back, I'm going to be joined by New York Giants play-by-play voice Bob Papa. And Bob is one of my favorites. He's also a golf announcer, has a extensive background as a boxing announcer, so I'm going to have some fun. We're going to talk about Jackson Dart. We're going to talk about the Ryder Cup. I might even have to ask him about the Crawford-Canelo fight on Netflix. It'll all happen straight ahead right after this, right here on the Ricky Cobb Show.
Football's finally back. So's the hard-hitting gridiron action on Prize Picks. Download Prize Picks and use code OUTKICK and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play $5. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
My guest today is the play-by-play voice of the New York Giants on radio. He's also one of the finest golf and boxing announcers of his generation as well. Always a pleasure to welcome to the program, Bob Papa. Bob, how's it going?
Always a pleasure. When I get the call from your team, if I can come on the show, I love being on the program. Huge fan.
Well, Bob, as I've said many times, you are kind of the confluence of my sports passions because you're the one guy that I can sit and talk with, and we can go NFL, we can go golf, we can go boxing. That's pretty much perfect for me. But let's go ahead and start with the NFL here because there's some interesting news going on for week 4 with those New York Giants. As you well know, Jackson Dart is going to be under center this Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers. Russell Wilson, 3 games and to the bench. Obviously, the Giants 0-3 at this point. Brian Daboll making the decision that it's time for Jackson Dart. What are you expecting from Dart? How is Russell Wilson handling the demotion? And what can we look forward to in the immediate future for the New York Giants?
Well, we'll start with Russell Wilson, right? I'm going to paraphrase some things that others have said, but I think it's very accurate. If he never takes another snap for the New York Giants as a starting quarterback, Russell Wilson will be a net positive for this franchise. He came in, things were a little bit, with the quarterback situation, And he really kind of galvanized the group and kind of brought everyone together. As Carl Banks likes to say, my broadcast partner, he's eternally optimistic. And I think that sort of mindset, that accountability, and all those things, he has left his mark, not only in the quarterback room, not only in the offense, but with the entire team. Now, look, the results aren't what the Giants wanted. They are 31st in the NFL in red zone offense. So it's not like they haven't gotten to the red zone in 3 games. They've gotten there 10 times. Their opponents have gotten there 10 times. The team they play this week, the Chargers, has had 10 red zone appearances. It's the frequency of touchdowns. The Giants only have 2 of them. And I think what Jackson Dart's going to be able to do is use his legs. And we all know that part of the Brian Dable, Mike Kafka offense are the RPOs. And you just can't run that with a 36-year-old quarterback to the same effect that you can do with Jackson Dart, which he did in college. And I think he's going to bring an energy to the stadium on Sunday. Giants fans are excited to see him. It's probably earlier than anybody was hoping for him to play, but I think the time is now because when the Giants have played against 2 good defenses this year, they've scored a grand total of 15 points in the 2 games. And Lord knows this Chargers defense is as good as it gets.
It's a tough assignment in the NFL as a rookie to play the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels, you see guys like Jaden Daniels once in a while, and it gives everybody starry eyes that their new toy is one that they'll be able to take out of the box and have a lot of fun with. On paper, Russell Wilson was a great bridge to the Jackson Dart era. Future Hall of Famer, I think, a good character guy, etc. As you noted, you feel that he's a net plus for the organization, even under the circumstances that he finds himself in. Look, New York is a tough market, as you know, the toughest that there is. And we've already seen Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. He's not exactly on the Jaden Daniels trajectory just yet in his young career. Is there any concern that a young quarterback can get gobbled up early, and that is a tough place, New York, to be in a situation where expectations are so high and maybe you're not quite ready to just hit the ground running like we've seen a few quarterbacks such as Jaden Daniels do in recent years?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels also is a function of team, quality of the team. You know, you insert a guy into a really good team with a head coach that understands what he's doing. It's not like Dan Quinn was a first-time head coach and he was trying to figure things out. This is a guy that took a team to within 30 minutes of winning a Super Bowl. So I think Jaden Daniels had some built-in support, and also he's a phenomenal player, right? Like, we all know how good he is. Yeah, it's always risky, right? I mean, you think about Eli Manning. They waited until 9 games for him to get his first start. He went against a Falcons team that was 7-2 back in 2004. He wound up losing the game. He had the game against the Ravens in which he had a 0 quarterback rating. It's hard to do. I mean, you have a quarterback rating of 37 just by being 0 for 1. So to get to 0 has to be really bad. My theory on this always is just this. If you're so fearful that a guy's going to get gobbled up and ruined, then he's probably not the right guy to start with, because Troy Aikman got his butt kicked his rookie year. Peyton Manning got his butt kicked his rookie year. There's been numerous quarterbacks that were first-round picks that took their lumps right out of the gate, but it doesn't break them because they are special and they have an ability to overcome it, learn from it, not get overwhelmed by it. And yes, New York is different. We've seen guys come through. Look at the Jets. I mean, between Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, even the Daniel Jones situation, it never really worked out. But Jackson Dart has a little attitude that he brings to the table. You know, everyone talks about he's got the moxie. He believes that he was born for this part, and this is where he wanted to come. I mean, remember, he went to Ole Miss. There's the Eli and the Charlie Connerly tradition in Oxford, and there's a connection to the Giant organization. And this is the place he wanted to be, and he's going to get his opportunity. I don't think he's going to blink, although it won't be perfect, but I don't think anything's going to get this kid down.
Bob, you mentioned Daniel Jones. The beginning of the Daniel Jones era in Indianapolis, you couldn't write it any better, couldn't script it. They're 3-0. They've got one punt. He's Indiana Jones now. How surprised are you to see just really the unbelievable start that Daniel Jones has gotten off to with his new team?
Listen, I've always been a supporter of DJ, and I still communicate with him. I feel like, when you look at Peyton Manning, you look at Tom Brady, you look at what happened with the Packers and their quarterbacks, there's continuity that exists. And for any young quarterback, when you change the head coach after 1 year, and then you change the head coach a couple of years later, and you change the general manager, and you constantly are changing offensive line coaches and offensive coordinators, you're really hampering their ability to have a chance, even a chance, to be their best version of themselves. And look, Daniel Jones didn't play well the last couple of years, and he was hurt. And this regime didn't draft him. Now they have the guy that they drafted. But I always felt like Daniel Jones could play in the league. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in that ilk of quarterback. But the one thing I reminded my audiences on my shows is he's never played for a team that has as good an offensive line as they have in Indianapolis. He had a running back in Saquon Barkley, but Jonathan Taylor is right in that conversation of elite running backs in the NFL. He's never had a complement of 3 wide receivers as good as the group in Indianapolis. And Tyler Warren is going to be a star in this league as a tight end. He's never played with a tight end this good, not to mention that they're consistently good defensively. So he was walking into a situation that gives him an opportunity to be the best version of himself. And everyone said after they beat Miami, it's just the Dolphins, man. They're terrible. They're soft. And then he beat Denver. Now, I know they got lucky with the penalty and everything, but he had 3 drives of over 80 yards against that Broncos defense, who we all believe are one of the better defenses in the NFL. And he'll get a chance this week against the Rams to kind of prove people wrong again. But I'm happy for him, and I think he'll continue to play well.
Well, Bob, it's certainly going to be interesting to follow along with Daniel Jones, but I'm highly interested, as I'm sure you are, and every Giants fan, in how Jackson Dart is going to look this weekend against a very good Jim Harbaugh coached Chargers team. All right, let's switch gears, Bob. As I said, you are sort of the Swiss Army knife of my greatest sports interest, and we have got a big event in the world of golf. I mean, it's in some respects it's bigger than majors, right? Because we only get it every 2 years, and we only get it on United States soil, only every 4 years. Bethpage Black, the United States, Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau and the boys trying to reclaim the Ryder Cup. How do you think it sets up on paper, and what are your expectations as you look at Luke Donald trying to make it 2 in a row for Europe?
Well, the European squad has proven over the last 25, 30 years of being unbelievably resilient. And in a lot of the instances, they always seem to be a little bit more team-centric, whereas it feels like the American squad tends to be a consortium of individuals. I feel like Keegan has done a really good job of kind of changing that a little bit, to the sense that there feels like there is a little bit more unity. You hear all the stuff about Bryson and him flying on his own, making sure he got to PGA Tour events when they have those team dinners early in the week, and really doing everything he could possibly do to be part of the group. And look, a lot of people like him. I mean, he's crazy, he's quirky, he's great for the game. But really the bottom line is, can the United States make putts when they have to? And that's what decides a lot of golf tournaments, obviously, and a lot of Ryder Cups especially. Ian Poulter's never won a major, but man, in Ryder Cup play, that guy was money. And who gets hot with the putter for Team USA? And you can't just rely on Scotty to get all your points. You need the upstart guys to take down a big group, a pairing that looks favorable. And that always comes down to making putts. And I think one of the reasons, and Ricky, it's just my opinion, but just in talking to a lot of the players that I've gotten to know over the years coming up through the college ranks, one of the advantages that has kind of gone away is the fact that when you went over there to play in the Ryder Cup and played in DP World events, the greens are just slower and they faster greens here. But now half of the European team, if not more, live in Florida, live in the United States, and they're full-time members of the PGA Tour, not the DP World Tour. So they're used to the same conditions. It's not this drastic change in course conditions that once, I think, gave Team USA a bigger advantage.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you're so right, Bob. I mean, for all of the analysis that goes into pairings and all of these things, I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as who's hot at that particular time and who gets hot with the putter, which is a great point. How much do you think that the 13th man, so to speak, how much does the atmosphere in terms of the gallery? I know that the home team can set up the course as they would like, but again, as you said, these European guys, they're used to playing over here. Some obnoxious, let's say, charmingly obnoxious New York fans this weekend. Is that something that makes any difference? I got to imagine that Rory McIlroy, for starters, is going to be hearing a lot of chirping and a lot of talk. Is that something that you think gives the home team an advantage, or is that maybe just fuel for the European fire this weekend?
Well, I think the Europeans have proven, because of their close bond that they have as a team, and with Luke Donald being a captain back-to-back Ryder Cups now, I think it's like that us against the world mentality. But again, these guys all play in the United States on a regular basis. This isn't new to them. If they're playing in a PGA Tour event and you're one of the European players playing on the PGA Tour and it's late and you're going against Scotty Scheffler or you're going against, one of the top American guys, I don't care if it's at Bethpage, if it's in Los Angeles, if it's in Ohio, or if it's in Texas. American fans are going to pull for an American player, especially like with Jordan Spieth or Scheffler on any of the events that are in Texas. So they're used to it. They've heard it all before. And I think it only factors in is if the U.S. squad can get off to a fast start. Because as you well know, if you're at a football game, whether it's a college football game, an NFL game, and the stadium's packed and there's a home field advantage, and they're whipped into a frenzy, but when things start to go bad, right then you can feel the nervous tension from the home fans, and then it becomes counterproductive. It almost becomes a negative. So I think a fast start for Team USA is imperative. You can't get behind a couple points right out of the gate because then everybody feels that nervous energy, and it does trickle down in the wrong direction.
That's a great point. When suddenly it gets quiet, it's almost like you have home field disadvantage under those circumstances.
Yeah, think about it in baseball. Think about it in baseball too, right?
Yeah.
We got all these races going on right now, and the team has the home field advantage. But if you're leaving runners in scoring position and all that other stuff, you could feel the tension in the stadium as you get to these later innings and you squander chances to score runs. I mean, all of a sudden it becomes, now you feel the bats tightening. And that's the same thing in this situation.
Yeah, that's an absolutely astute point. I'll tell you, I look at these teams. There is something about that European camaraderie. Tiger Woods won one Ryder Cup, 1-7 in 8. And I know it's a team thing, but Tiger, of course, was like 13, 21, and 3. Maybe the one box in his illustrious career that he didn't quite check was Ryder Cup performance. I really like this European team. There's a part of me that feels like I want to pick them, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go USA. I'm going to say 15-13, Bob. Give me your prediction on how you think it's going to go down this weekend.
I kind of like it just how you have it. I think it's going to be really tight. And I'm looking at it through USA glasses. And because of friendships with players on the team. So listen, I'm pulling for the United States. How could you not? But again, the game has become so much better globally. And players from all different parts of the world. And these guys are used to playing in the United States. It's not like, oh my gosh, I play on the European tour and now I'm in a match against Jack Nicklaus. Well, they play against each other constantly. They're actually friends, a lot of these guys. They're friends. They share private jets together at times. I mean, here in Florida, Ludwig Oberg, I see him in Publix where I live. So there's a commonality that exists with all this stuff. But I think the Euros are really good at kind of creating the cocoon of team, and suddenly they don't feel like they live in the United States for this one weekend, this 1 week. I think they all feel like they don't live here in the U.S., even though they do, most of them.
Yeah, that's just running into Ludwig down at Publix. You're right. It's a different world. I don't think Tony Jacklin and Nicholas were bumping into each other at the grocery store,
No.
50 years ago. All right, Bob. Let me ask you here. Got to ask you one boxing question, or I just couldn't live with myself. The Canelo Crawford fight, which great, tremendous performance, obviously by Bud Crawford. But what do you think of the Netflix model? This fight was viewed by a lot more people than even the most successful pay-per-views of all time. Are we entering into a new era where the most desirable bouts are going to end up being available on streaming rather than the old model of pay-per-view? What do you think of that? And is it something that could sort of maybe interject some much needed juice into boxing, which obviously for a period of time has not been what those of us who remember boxing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s loved so much about those days?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lengthy conversation, right? But yes, I think this is the way it's going. And I think this is the best way it can go for the sport in the United States. Now, boxing has grown a lot in the last 30 years, but internationally. Because I think with the advent of ESPN airing sports, and mid-majors and everything else, I think a lot of the guys that would be boxers, especially in the super middleweight, lightweight, heavyweight divisions, said, wow, you know what? I can go to a mid-major and play college basketball on TV or college football on TV and be on a Thursday night, but at least be on TV, get an education, and maybe become a pro. And I think that really hurt this sport. I think the other thing that hurt the sport, having done Friday night fights on ESPN, we used to do a lot of fights, and those fighters would eventually graduate to HBO or Showtime, which were pay cable services. And then those services started putting more and more things on pay-per-view. And, we grew up where you could watch a fight on a Saturday afternoon on NBC or CBS and watch it for free. And then maybe the big championship fights would be pay-per-view, but they'd even show that on free TV the next week. I think it became such a niche sport because you priced people out of it. And I think this new model is certainly the way to go. And I think you'll get more people to watch it. They'll improve the TV production. They'll improve all that other stuff. This was the first one out of the gate. And I know people were complaining about the time that the fight started, but listen, when we would do championship fights, when I did HBO Boxing After Dark, the main event never started before 11 o'clock because you have to take the international audience into account and where it's being shown. And that would always be, especially in the pay-per-views, they never walked into the ring before 11:15 because you're not just dealing with East Coast people, you're dealing with West Coast people, and you were dealing with people on the international level. And I think these fights will be late. but I think this is the best thing that they can do to try to open it up to more people. Hey, I have 20-year-old, I have sons in their 20s. Now they can watch it without putting down $69.95 or $99.95 to watch a fight with guys they don't even know who they are. Now you can see it. You can expose people to it. You can watch the undercard, and in the co-feature or some of those undercard fights, eventually those guys are going to be fighting for championships, and at least people know who they are. So I think the new model is the way to go.
Bob, on the one end of the spectrum, we have two of the pound-for-pound best, historically great fighters in Crawford and Canelo. It was a chess match. I was so impressed with Bud Crawford. You're watching guys at the absolute, peak of their discipline. And then on the other hand, you got Tank Davis and Jake Paul. Is a fight like that, where you got two guys who are probably going to have a very significant weight disparity, it's going to be an exhibition. Who knows how it's going to go down? I never know what to expect with Jake Paul fights. Is it a net plus for boxing that we're talking about boxing in the context of Tank Davis and Jake Paul, or is it something that in the big picture you think is more harm than good?
I don't want to be the get off the lawn kind of guy, because I come from a different era, but I think if it brings eyeballs to the sport, but as long as you can backfill it, sort of like with this Netflix model, with a Bud Crawford Canelo fight and more good fights that people can watch, if it gets some people that have really never watched boxing to watch this exhibition, even like the whole Tyson fiasco, it got people to watch. And now if you backfill it, and I think the model is going to be these streaming services getting heavily more involved in boxing because of the ability to show it globally, I think that's a net win. I mean, let us not forget, there was a dude named Butterbean. There's always been sideshows in this sport. There's Ed Too Tall Jones quitting football to try to become boxing way back when. So the sport has always had a bit of a carnival aspect to it. But if it continues to get backfilled with legitimate fights on streaming services that people can see, and this gets some people to maybe get interested in the sport, even though it's really not boxing the way Canelo Crawford was, the more to the party, the better. Can't be stuck in the past.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. If it gets somebody into it and they start, finding interest in real high-level boxing, then I think that's good for the sport. Bob, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I know that not just New York, but a lot of NFL fans are going to be watching that Giants game this weekend closely as we get our first look at Jackson Dart. Appreciate you very much, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Love being on the show. Continued success.
Always fun to have a chance to catch up with Bob Papa. And Tim, what are your thoughts here? We covered a little NFL. We talked some Ryder Cup. I got a little bit of boxing in, which always makes me happy. What say you?
I love his range. The fact that he can do what he does. And look, I still think his best work. He may object is the radio. I think what he does calling Giant games is. He's got that cadence, that pause, that urgency. I think that's better than most. I will say, Ricky, since that interview, we do have some tee times out for Ryder now. Couple of head scratchers. Yeah, a couple of head scratchers. We could take a look here. Could see it full in case you can't see. I think a lot of people don't understand the Morikawa English pairing there as match 3. Bryson and Thomas with Rahm and Hatton there for match 1. What stands out to you here?
Well, it's always interesting for me to see who the captains pair together. That's such a big part of the equation, particularly for foursomes, which is alternate shot. Yeah. So you want guys who are well suited for the alternate shot. I think for 4-ball, it matters less. because, you're just playing your own ball. But for foursomes, the pairings really do matter a lot. It's interesting to me, Rahm and Hatton, those guys are teammates in Live. So they're buddies. That's one that I would see. McElroy and Fleetwood is a dangerous combination there, no doubt about it. Yep. McIntyre and Hovland is another interesting one. Bryson and Justin Thomas, Bryson and JT, that's an interesting pairing there in the first match. And then Russell Henley is going to get the call with Scotty Scheffler, which, that's probably a pretty good pairing as well. Henley's a very consistent sort of player. Obviously, Scotty is the best in the world. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But as Bob Papa said, that home course, home country advantage that we have, to really enjoy it and take advantage of it, it would be helpful if the United States could jump out to an early lead. Because I thought Bob's comment was so smart when he said, if you've got a stadium full of rowdies, or you've got a golf course full of people who are ready to get excited and ready to scream at the top of their lungs, and then suddenly you look up and it's 2.5 to 1.5 Europe, or it's 3-1 Europe, or something like that, you really mute that advantage. Whereas if you get off to a good start, you might be lighting a fuse that's going to lead to a bigger bang as you go into the weekend. So for the Americans, I think the most important thing is at least get off to a reasonable start where you're not behind, because it can be very, very tough to dig yourself out of a hole in the Ryder Cup. So
I know they're not playing.
I just
know
saw
they're not
those
playing
for the first
today.
time.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Great analysis. You're right. I do know the 4-ball and the foursome. I forgot about the alternate shot thing, so that kind of explains it a little bit. Some of the pairing. Listen, Captain Keegan Bradley doing everything he can right now in the last hour. There's video of him running up the 18th fairway with the American flag, firing up the crowd. So to your point and Papa's point, play to the home course, play to the home crowd, and come out swinging early. I agree.
Yeah. You got to maximize the opportunity, because, man, those Europeans, if they get out to a lead, they are going to take great pleasure in silencing that gallery at Bethpage Black. And it suddenly becomes almost a counterintuitive, advantage that the road team has at that point. And they're such a tight knit group. I predict that the U.S. will win, because they got to win one once in a while. It hasn't been real good run for about the last 30 years for the USA in the Ryder Cup. And so if they don't get this one with Keegan Bradley, who I think was a great pick for captain, you got a great spiritual leader of the team in Scotty Scheffler, who's steady and down to earth and approachable, and all those guys really like him. You got Bryson, who can, be our feisty sort of guy. And I think JT is that kind of personality as well. I think JT can feed off of Bryson. That's a good pairing.
They could be electric, or they could be a disaster. Yeah, from what I know, the two of them, man, it's feast or famine, right?
Yeah, there's some of that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, to say the least. Let's go to poll replies, see what folks are saying here on this Thursday. It would appear that riding lawnmowers are going to head right on into Championship Friday with no problem whatsoever. 34.5% of the vote giving them the nod over Cheez-Its. I don't know, Tim. Cheez-Its, they're just a little bland for me. I don't know.
Flavor Blasts. There's new bags with Flavor Blasts, and they still suck. I'm with you, man.
Yeah, I've had the Flavor Blast, and I'm like, that's not a blast of flavor. What the fuck are you talking about? BC, a proud subscriber, I appreciate you, says, name another show other than Emergency that sent a whole generation into a career path. I'll wait. Yeah, there were a lot of people who wanted to get out there and play with the Ringers lactate. I'll tell you that. The Moops says goals. Riding lawnmower. I thought they were badass when I was a kid, but anything that had 3 or 4 or 2 or any number of wheels, I was ready to drive when I was 10 years old. Jim Kaiser coming in with a haiku for us. All things motorized will get my vote every time. Cheez-Its are good too. So Jim is right in line with the 1-2 finish that we're seeing here. Clifton Avenue says keep it simple. Look at that. Is that Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Looks like.
Yeah, and a tux.
All right. Well, I don't know. Hey, look, I make the polls. I don't always agree with the result. Oh, my God.
You taking that to Vegas?
Yeah, I'm going to ride that to Vegas. I'd be like George Jones on that thing. I get
Do you have overalls, Ricky?
DUI for being too stoned. Tim, you can't ask me a question like that.
No, I realize
I don't have
a pair. As country as I think I've become, I realize I don't have a pair of overalls.
Well, what percentage of men do you think do? At least north of the Mason-Dixon line.
I think if you're a welder or a plumber and you're I don't know. I think they're very practical from what I've seen. A lot of straps.
After seeing that photo, I kind of feel like I could rock it in those. Maybe that's the inspiration. I'm like, I don't know. I see alternate universe Ricky Cobb there enjoying his overalls and his riding lawnmower, and I'm kind of getting a Green Acres is the place to be.
Yeah, you wouldn't have white socks on, though. You're not a white sock guy. Hey, before we go, shout out to Sean Alexander, friend of the show. He and his wife Valerie announcing they're expecting their 14th child, Ricky, 14th.
Oh, my God. God bless. Sean, we've had him on the program a couple of times. I sat down with him in person on Radio Row in New Orleans this year at the Super Bowl. Just such a nice guy. And
so nice.
We've talked quite a bit about his family because, I got 5 kids and people ask me, how do you do it? Sean, as I have told him more than once, he's in that category. He's the guy that I go to and say, how do you do it? Because it's amazing the beautiful family that he and his wife have. Congratulations to Sean Alexander on the great news that they're going to be adding to their family. It's NFL Picks Thursday here. Normally we do it on Friday, but this week's a little different. I'm going to Vegas tomorrow. I got Tears for Fears tickets, folks, and I'm going to see Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. If you haven't heard me talk about that, I'm excited about both of those things. I'm going to pop an edible, and then I'm going to go into the Sphere, and I expect the Wizard of Oz to change my fucking life, Tim.
You better hit Prize Picks. I can't imagine what those tickets cost you. Good Lord, you better win.
I'm telling you right now, it's good to be right on Prize Picks, Tim. Never better than when you need a little money for a trip to Vegas. So it's working out nicely for me. Let's go to Ronnie's picks. Ronnie not here, so it's an NFL Picks Thursday for us, and let's see what we're doing. Okay, well, right out of the gate, Ronnie and I do not have any. We don't have any overlap on our picks. So I'm a couple of games behind him. Ronnie off to a good start, 7-5. He likes the Saints plus 15.5. Tim, 15.5 is a large number. I think the Bills will cover it, but I understand what he's doing there. He's got 3 dogs. It's a 3-dog, let's just say night. Let's pretend it's at night because that's a better comment. He likes the Colts plus 3.5 against the Rams. I don't know about that one, but we'll see.
Well, if they win, if the Colts win, they're legit. Let's say it now. Their owner on the sidelines, young lady making headlines. Yeah.
If they go 4-0, and that's a very good Rams team. If they beat them on the road, Indiana Jones. We're going to be hearing more and more and more about him as the season goes on. The Panthers screwed Ronnie over last week by drubbing the Falcons, so he's going to try to get in on that. And then he likes the Ravens. That was one that I thought about a lot, Tim. I considered picking the Ravens, but man, this is one of those where it's hard to imagine the Ravens being 1-3. It's actually a little easier for me to imagine the Chiefs being 1-3. But if they can't get it done at Arrowhead, when they know that they need this to be 500 rather than 2 games under 500 in a division where the Chargers are very likely going to be 4-0 after this week. I got to believe that the Chiefs are going to figure out some kind of a way to win that game. We'll find out. Let's go to my picks.
Real quick though, good Lord, man, the schedule makers had it out for Baltimore. Jesus, Bills, Lions, Chiefs in the 3 of the first 4 games.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah. That is a rough first quarter of the season by any measure. So I don't know.
Let's see your winners.
Let's see what I got here. Again, I'm going to take the Commanders. Laying 1.5 on the road at the Falcons.
That's an easy one.
The Falcons scares me a little bit because the Falcons are coming off of, getting shut out by Carolina. And sometimes you look at these lines and you think, okay, is this a trap? But if Jaden Daniels plays, that's going to be a tough ask for the Falcons, I think. I am going to take the Chargers laying 6.5 at the Meadowlands. Jackson Dart's first start. The Chargers are looking very good. I think they can win that game by a touchdown or more. Yeah. San Diego Superchargers.
Go Chargers, go.
If you try to sing Los Angeles.
No.
Seahawks at the Cardinals. I don't know. Seattle Sam Darnold is looking a lot like first 16 weeks of the season last year, Sam Darnold to me. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks to win on the road, and then Eagles at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are dealing with some injuries. They're 3-0, but I think their point differential is like 6, Tim.
Correct.
So, I mean, they have absolutely maximized everything to be 3-0. The Eagles, I think, can win that game. So those are my picks as I try to not let this get too far away from me. I don't want to start falling 4 or 5 games behind Ronnie, because then I'm going to have a chore the rest of the season.
Yeah, we could just start to mess with his picks too. We could.
Yeah. Well, he's not
Put
here.
the bucks on him. Yeah.
We can do, all right, one more home run tweet for you guys. This is one of my favorites. A little factoid for you. Joe Niekro, if you're of a certain age, you certainly remember the great Phil Niekro, his brother Joe. Phil won over 300 games, is in the Hall of Fame. Joe won over 200 games. It was a damn fine pitcher himself, both of them knuckleballers. And I don't know what day this was when I tweeted it, but in 1976, it wasn't today, Joe Niekro hit the only home run of his 22-year major league career, and he hit it off of his brother Phil, Tim. The one home run that he ever hit.
Ricky, this is why baseball is just the most amazing game possible. Can you imagine? I'm trying to give you my Kirchin impression here. The likelihood. That's such a crazy stat that you have there. Kirchin would lose his mind on that one. It's amazing.
That is a great stat, and I had the honor of interviewing Phil Niekro a number of years ago. We probably had about an hour-long phone conversation, and I had to ask him about this. And I said, all right, it was before I could even ask the question. Phil said, "No, I didn't give it to him. I wasn't setting him up. He really hit it. He's like, people think that maybe I grooved one in there for my brother, but no, I was trying to get him out. So Joe earned it, and I can give you that as a fact because it came straight from the lips of Phil Niekro himself." All right, my friends, here at the end of this Thursday, which wraps up our abbreviated week, as I get set to go to Vegas, I want to thank Bob Papa for joining the program today, Ronnie T-Shirts for checking in from out in Washington as he looks forward to the big Ohio State game this weekend, to Molly and Colin in Nashville, to P.A. Jarrett, and of course, the great producer Tim as well. But most of all, I thank you, you sweet bastards, because you're the reason I'm here. You're the reason that we do this, and I do love you guys. You can find us, as always, on Fox Nation, Outkick.com, and on YouTube at The Ricky Cobb Show. That is our new channel, so please check that out. We're in podcast form on Apple and Spotify, and you can also find our content on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well, of course, as X, where you can find me at Super 70 Sports. Come by and see me over the weekend. Even though I'm on the road, the grind never stops. I will be tweeting from Las Vegas, and who knows, maybe I'll be hanging out with Roland Orzabal late on Saturday night. If that happens, I'll be sure to update you and let you know. I hope that you have a great weekend wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and I'll look forward to meeting you here again next week when we will tee it high and let it fly with a whole new week of The Ricky Cobb Show.